Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching this in the world. I hope you guys are doing okay. So I saw this topic on Button Check and then I went onto Twitter to read some of the tweets that had been put out and some of the replies. Now I will just warn you before we get into it, although if you've seen this on Button Check and you've read the title of my video, you're probably aware this is somewhat of a spicy topic. Now you guys know I always keep it 100 of you. I know I've offended plenty of you before, but I'm going to give my opinion on this subject about Saudi Arabia and the eSports World Cup. It starts here with an individual called Caleb Simmons, and he says, did not expect esports in 2024 to make me grieve like it has, but the hits keep coming. Gave myself a few days to process emotions. It's time to get up and get loud. I'm stepping down from the esports award panel. I was approached to work Gamers 8 last year as well as EWC this year, both of which I've turned down and will continue to do so. It is impossible to write a perfect statement, so I'm just going to make a list of truths I deeply feel that lead me to this conclusion. I sincerely love and respect our Men of Rocket League family. I'm appalled by the official policies and practices of the Saudi government, would use my esports world as a way to try and distract from these horrific acts. I'm confused and deeply frustrated that the heads of esports world are so eagerly being complicit in this propaganda. I'm enthusiastic for the Middle East to get to experience the joy of esports the way I have, but this direct government involvement irreparably stains the show, turning a wonderful thing into a way to continue to harm. If the US were to use esports as a way to distract from their funding of the Palestinian genocide, I would react the same way. I do not fault any colleague for making a decision different than mine. It is an exceedingly complex world and we can easily draw different conclusions. I ask the forgiveness of any MENA fans that have feel hurt by this choice. There is much I can't control, but I do get to choose what things Wavepunk advocates for. I cannot be a voice that helps hide the oppression of people I love. Now there is a lot to unpack here. I'm going to read out some of the responses from both sides of the argument, and then at the end I'm going to give my whole point of view on this situation. And as I said, if you're easily offended, this might not be the video for you, although I'd like to think that most of us have a backbone and we can have healthy conversations about this. You have an individual here called Ali who has tweeted. Now obviously I believe that is in Arabic, so I have translated it. So Ali, if Google has not done a good enough job, or Twitter or whoever does the translation, my apologies, but this is what the translation gave me. The morally backward Westerner speaks from a society in which addicts compete with a number of sober people. They swallow and legalize everything that goes wrong. They encourage and accept every degenerate, pornographic and criminal act that is other than the crimes of their politicians. He lies to himself that it is a virtue and a sublimity of morals. So who is he to speak? Nothing. We heard you shouting, raise your voice a little because it's far away. Then you have Sajam here, who is in more alignment with the original poster, saying, haven't seen a statement about EWC that I resonate with more on many levels. I've also seen many people asking who in the FGC is against this. I was asked to work Gamer 8 last year and asked again to work on EWC and its qualifiers and declined both. Instead, I'll continue to support grassroots events and spaces in our community and work towards creating more cool stuff for the rest of us to enjoy. Mature TV replies to Sajam saying, would you do the same when offered to work with an organization / country / group that supports Israel, or is it just about working with Muslims? Sajam responds saying, not about Muslims, and as an example, I was offered a massive contract recently by the US government and declined. Mature TV says, is this really about working with any government? The original post is 100% targeted at Saudi Arabia specifically. I'm appalled by the official policies and practices of the Saudi government. I'm indignant that this government would use my esports world as a way to try and distract from these horrific acts. This is what it mentioned. We saw another very similar example with the Football World Cup in 2022 in Qatar, and all the Western media attacked us over it, yet the event was the safest in history and a remarkable success. I just don't think this kind of targeted attacks towards groups helps anyone. In fact, it would make people with certain agendas boycott the event, which will hurt the FGC. Mohammed Bookdid here says, and I apologize if I got that name wrong, says, wait, hold on a sec, if Saudi Arabia killed journalists and did bad things, etc., you do not have the right to talk. The US have been committing war crimes for the last 50 years non-stop and some horrific experiences on humans, so what? But what standard would Saudi Arabia is wrong? So I think he's basically saying there that the US have been doing terrible things, even if it's not the same as what the Saudis have done, but they've done terrible things nonetheless, and I assume he believes he's being a hypocrite. But we'll keep reading before I chime in. So obviously Sonic Fox was against this. Sonic Fox is a gay man. I am imagine in Saudi Arabia they're not the most welcoming to gay people. And it's their country, it's their rules. When I go to people's country, I respect their rules. There's certain places as a mixed race individual, or some places will just see me as a black man, that I know I'm not welcome. I don't lose any sleep over it. It is what it is. It's a big world. Sonic Fox being a gay gamer is probably not going to be welcome at the EWC. I am not entirely sure. That's just what I'm inferring from the tweets that he has put up. But a while ago, Sonic Fox tweeted this out saying, I was also invited to Gamers 8 Street Fighter 6 tournament, but I turned it down. Too much traveling for, and I don't like going to tournaments. I am not confident that I can win. But if they have one for MK1, and then he's doing the WhatsApp eyes. And this was tweeted on the 8th of August 2023, so about a year ago. Sonic Fox has then put this up saying, people are trying to use this as some kind of gotcha when one, I didn't even know almost anything about Gamers 8 or Saudi Arabia for that matter when I was presented with the opportunity, and two, upon further information and learning their policies, I'm against it entirely, which is crazy because I didn't even go. Normalize having a change of opinion when presented with the new information, and know if they announce one for MK1, would not go / support. If you guys are really trying to gotcha this, I am literally gay. I cannot even if I wanted to. I'm certainly against the EWC, especially since the country actively discriminates against LGBTQ folks like me. I think allowing the EWC to stay in the FGC would divide the community drastically, as LGBTQ folks would straight up just not be allowed to compete in it. Playing for that amount of money is anybody's dream, but doing so at the cost of discriminating against players is something I will always, and I mean always, be against. It also sucks being a professional esports player and actively knowing that sponsors are looking around to hire players for EWC. I've been approached by a few offers already for it, and I have to straight up say I cannot do this because I'm gay, which sucks. Now, there are a lot of tweets surrounding this, but these are the main ones that I've pulled. Some of them you probably haven't seen, some of them you might have seen on Button Check. So I'm going to go through this now, and I'm going to give my opinion on where I stand on this and what I think about what people have tweeted out. So we'll start with the original poster, Caleb Simmons. Now, I would never get onto a man for standing up in what he believes in. Whether I agree with him or not, if Caleb believes this and he has stood up for what he believes in and he stood down, that's not something that I can disrespect, because I'm very much in the same boat. When I believe in something and I believe that I can make a change, doesn't matter what other people think. If I feel that, then I'll do it. So I have nothing against that train of thought. What I am against is this sentence here where he says, I am indignant that this government would use my esports world as a way to try and distract from these horrific acts. Caleb, I hate to break it to you, but if esports were not involved with the Saudis, I don't think the situation would change. They have pretty much taken over the entire sporting world, as we've seen with boxing as just one example. But it shouldn't take your esports for you to want to speak about something. Now, one thing I understand is that you will boycott things that affect you directly. I get that completely. It's just in this instance, we're talking about human life. Now, I guess the problem here for Caleb is that there is direct involvement from the government in these sporting events, whether it's esports or otherwise. But he goes on to say that he's deeply frustrated that the heads of the esports world are so eagerly being complicit in this propaganda. Caleb, most of these companies, most of these heads of the esports world, or whatever world it is, are explicit in propaganda wherever you go in the world, and that includes the US. The shit that happens in the US does not float above everybody else's. And listen, I'm from the UK. I know what our government have done in the past. I'm well aware of what they're doing now. I am not a supporter of how the UK government operates, but every government around the world does disgusting things. Now, just because they're not directly funding esports does not mean that they do not take part in propaganda, does not mean that things that you go and enjoy are not funded by the government or have ties to regimes that are doing disgusting things around the world. If you're going to take a stance like this, then you're going to have to boycott several restaurants, cafes, your favorite hangout spots, because you'd be surprised where they get their money from. This to me almost comes across like selective outrage. Like you want to point the finger over at the Saudis, and I'm not saying the Saudi government are innocent, but no government is innocent. They all do disgusting things. Now, they may not do it using esports, but they lie to us on the TV all the time. We know that American news stations paint themselves up as if they know exactly what is going on, that they're on the right side of history, and that these people over the pond are bad people. And we know full well what the US government is funding. Everybody knows what these people are involved in. If you don't know, it doesn't take very long to find out. Now again, if this is the thing that you've chosen to be angry about, I have no problems with that. I can't be angry for everybody around the world. There are genocides happening everywhere. There are sections of America, for example, that have been completely abandoned by the US government. government, and the people have just been left to fend for themselves. That's why you see a spike in crime in certain places. Over here in the UK, we have a reduced police force because the government have probably deemed it that some areas are just not worth looking after. We know about situations where buildings have been burning and the government knew that there was a lack of funding for these certain places, and so people lost their lives. So I'm not saying that you got to be angry over everything. And I do think it's Caleb's right to choose where he wants to go to do his business. Now, I don't know what Wavepunk is. I'm assuming that Wavepunk is some sort of organization he owns or a group or whatever it is, but it's up to him where he wants to go and take that business. Just like it's up to Muslims to take their business wherever they want, Christians, whoever it might be. I have no issues with that. Now, as for Sonic Fox's opinion and his change of opinion, I actually have no issue with that. If Sonic Fox was unaware of the policies of the Saudi government and now he has become aware of the policies, he has a right to change his opinion. I don't think that's a gotcha moment, and I have no issue with Sonic Fox standing against the Saudi government because he's a gay man and maybe he's not welcome over there. By that same token, I have absolutely no issue with the Saudi government having their policies and their practices and their standards for who they want in their country and who they don't want. People have to understand that the rules that apply to us do not apply to people across the pond. We cannot push our ideas, we can't push our ideals and our way of living on other people if they don't accept it, if their religion does not accept it. Like I was saying earlier, when I go to somebody else's backyard, I just respect their rules. I don't ask questions, I don't say ifs, buts or maybes. I don't try to come across like I'm morally superior because maybe we're more welcoming. It's their country, it's their rules. If you don't like it, you don't go there. And I say the exact same thing to people that come to the UK and want to change our rules. If you don't like it here, go back to your country. So as far as I'm concerned, with regards to what the EWC permits and doesn't permit, and the Saudi government, what they permit and what they don't permit, that's their country. It's up to them what they want to do with it. I understand that Sonic Fox is saying that it might split the community because they don't welcome LGBTQ folks, and I don't think that's true. I don't think it's going to split the community. Now, it means that maybe Sonic Fox and people like Sonic Fox will not have the opportunity to play for the money, but if I'm being 100% honest with you guys, that's nobody else's problem. That's Sonic Fox's problem, and that's those people's problem. I know that might come across as mean, but even where I'm from in Uganda, they have certain rules and regulations and certain things are not allowed. And if they were doing an esports tournament, I have every right to go over there without having to feel bad for other people that maybe are not allowed over there and compete for a certain amount of money. By that same token, if I have friends that are gay and I want to support them, I can turn around to the Ugandan FGC or whatever it might be and say, hey, I don't want to come to your thing because this is what I believe in. I don't think anybody is wrong here. Everybody's allowed to stand up for what they believe in, and people also have the right to go and get that money. Now, I don't know how much the Saudis are putting up for these esports tournaments. I have no idea, but I've heard it's a lot of money. I've heard it's life-changing money. I've heard that the FGC has never seen money like this. And if there are people that want to go out there and get that money, I think they should go and get that money. If this is about standing up for what's right, then you're going to be standing for a very long time. The US is complicit in some disgusting things. I'm not just talking about war crimes, things that happen in their own country. Same goes for the UK. Some of the things that they permit, some of the things they turn a blind eye to, some of the things that they promote, the propaganda, the things that we are subjected to as well, whilst it might not be lynching somebody or whatever it might be, it's not good. There would be a lot of boycotting of restaurants and your favorite hangout spots if we were really going to stand on business. I don't think anybody should encourage other people to not go. I think if you don't want to go to those things, you shouldn't go. But I don't think it makes you a bad person if you are very skilled at a game and the Saudis are offering a certain amount of money and you're thinking, I could change my mum's life, for example. I don't think you should be made to feel bad about it. Now, I'm not saying Sonic Fox or anybody else is making people feel bad about it, although I can imagine this situation erupting and getting out of hand and people having fingers pointed at them. But by not going and by standing against the Saudi government, the FGC is not really going to make much of a difference. They have already taken over so much. Just the promotion of the boxing matches that we've seen with Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk and the Matchroom versus Queensberry, they have so much control over the sporting world that by a couple of people stamping their feet in the ground and saying we're not going is not going to make any difference. It's just not. That's just the reality of things. I don't stand against these people that want to do it. Like I said, if you believe in something, I think you should stand up for it. I'm just saying the reality of the situation. Nothing's going to change. If they are deciding to get themselves involved in esports, players are going to go. This is not going to be a case of we're going to go down swinging and screaming. You're just going to go down. The people that don't want to go will just not go, and the people that are not allowed to go will not be allowed to go, and people will take their spots. Now, I've heard that a lot of big names are over there. People like Daigo, for example. They're going to go and they're going to get that money, and this is just going to continue to grow as long as the Saudis want involvement in it. I also understand why mature TV has taken it as a ways of this is directed at Muslims, because it would come across as selective because of all the disgusting things that our governments fund around the world. They may not be directly involved in esports, but like I said, they do fund things around the world. They do allow certain things to happen, and a lot of these places where disgusting things are happening, they are also allowed to operate in our country and open up cafes and restaurants, and some of that money can be really dirty money. And if it's about human life and standing up for what's right, there's just going to be a lot of boycotting going on, and I really don't think a lot of you have the energy to do that constantly. We live in a corrupt world. There's a lot of sick things happening. It's very, very difficult to just stop it completely, or rather stop what you're doing to try and take a stand. Now again, that's not me saying don't take a stand if you believe in something. I'm just saying that it might fall on deaf ears and nothing might change. But I want to know what you guys think, because this is a bit of a difficult topic. You know, it's a bit hard to really stamp your feet in the ground somewhere. If it was me personally, I'm looking at my mum, I'm looking at my dad, I'm looking at my brothers, I'm looking at my friends, I'm looking at how I can change the people in my lives that really matter. And yeah, I'd probably go. No, actually scratch that. I'll stand on business. I would definitely go. If I thought that I could make a difference to the loved ones in my lives, you bet your bottom dollar I could go. But that's just the kind of person that I am. You know, I've spoken about this on stream multiple times. If it's for my people, then I'm gonna ride for my people. I think the best comparison that I can really give to you is that someone asked me, do you think Joel's the villain at the end of The Last of Us for shooting the fireflies and saving Ellie when Ellie's blood or whatever it was could have saved the whole planet? And I said no. I said no. I said if I was Joel, I would have shot them as well, because that's my girl, that's my daughter, or whoever it might be on the operating table. That's just the way I see things. I don't know if that comparison even sticks, but you get what I'm trying to say, hopefully. Anyways, guys, I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think that the FGC should boycott Saudi Arabia, or do you think this is selective outrage? I'll chat to you guys very soon. Take care and peace.